Hi everybody, it's Lindsay and I'm here today to share with you some tips on no-line coloring with colored pencils. I will be using two stamp sets from Two Paper Divas today. The first one is called Branching Out and I will just be using the limb from this set. And then I am using the brand new Bless Your Nest stamp set and it's got some really great birdhouses in it. So I'm just going to be using quite a few of those, pretty much all of them actually, to create a scene. Now I am stamping all of my images onto a piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, so a full size A2 size panel, and I am using Color Box dye ink in the shade of Putty. Now you can use whatever very light ink you may have. It can be a pigment, chalk, any type of ink you want to use. Just make sure that it's very light. This ink that I'm using is so light you can barely even see it on the paper. It's not even picking up in the video that you can see it, but I promise it is stamping on there, and this is creating a scene. You just can't really see it. I didn't do a whole lot of masking, and I just planned out my scene also. You can see it in the top right hand corner just to know where all my images would go, and so it was nice and proportionate when I ended up stamping this out. There you can barely see that stamp scene that I have created there, and now it's time to move on to coloring this. So for this I am just using Crayola colored pencils and Crazy Art colored pencils. You do not need high-end color pencils to do this technique. I'm just using these kids colored pencils, so anything you have you can use as long as you take the time to make it work. So in order to do this technique, you need some really sharp pencils to work with. I invested in an electric pencil sharpener, and I have it to the left of me. You can't see it on screen, but as I need to, I can just reach across and sharpen my colored pencils so they're nice and sharp each time I need to go into a tight little tiny space. Now it doesn't matter if you go from light to dark or dark to light, you just want to layer up your colors and really blend them out. I prefer to work from light to dark, however there are times when I do the exact opposite, or I come in with my medium shade first. It all depends on what you're comfortable with, and what you feel comfortable doing is what's going to work best for you. So no right or wrong way to go about doing this. Another thing is, you don't have to use Gamsol, OMS, whatever you want to call it, and blending stumps or paintbrush, but it really is beneficial with this technique because you're layering up so many colors. At some point you're going to get a wax bloom. You're not going to be able to add any more color. The paper just won't be able to take it. And so you really need to use that to blend it out in order to keep adding more and more layers. It also helps with blending your colors just so you don't need quite as many layers. So again, that's not really necessary to use, but it is very beneficial. Another thing with this technique is, like any other no-line coloring technique with any medium, it's going to take you a lot of time to do. Colored pencils are already kind of a coloring medium that takes a long time to make them look great. However, with this technique it takes just even longer. So I'm not going to show you the entire process of coloring this panel, but I am going to show you just a few parts in the very beginning. I ended up completing this off screen just because it took around 3 days for me to get this done on and off. So it takes a long time to do, but in the end it is worth it. So when I started out with this, I started with all of my wood pieces, and I'm not using the same color of browns on all of them. I did switch it up just so it looked more realistic, and also this just gives me some practice before I start on my main focal points, which are the birdhouses themselves. So these aren't really your main focal points, so if you do mess up, they are a little odd looking. It's not going to be as noticeable as one of the birdhouses. One thing I did end up doing on all of my images, once they were colored and the Gamsol had completely evaporated from the paper, I came back in with the darkest color and added definition to each one of these images. So like on my wood pieces, I came back in with pretty much a black color, a very dark brown, and added faux wood grain to it. And I also took that dark color and outlined each of the images just to make those pop and really give definition to them. Now I moved on and I'm working on the circles where the birdhouse openings are. And I found that it's helpful if you know you're going to be coloring all these objects with the same color, do it all at once, and that just saves you time in the end so you're not switching out colored pencils so often. Now on these birdhouses, they do have they are designed where each individual house has individual wooden slats, or it appears that way, and that's how they're put together. So when you go in to color these, and this does take a little bit of time, I did color each wooden slat individually, and that just adds definition and really helps bring out all of those features and things that could get lost whenever you do this type of technique. It just helps add a lot more definition. And again, once I had this completely colored in, I came back in with a very dark yellow color, almost an orange, and I really outlined where each of the darkest shadows would be. And that just really helps that image pop and look more realistic. So on this birdhouse, it had a faux wood grain on it too. So what I did first was I outlined the image first with my darkest color, and then I came in with my darkest color too and traced all of those wood grains so I wouldn't lose that when I went in and colored. And that just really helps bring out all of those fine details that really make this work. So when I had finished coloring it in all of those birdhouses, all of the leaves, I came in with a very light blue and also a darker blue, and I outlined each of the images just to help again bring those out and make them pop against this white cardstock. I then came in with a blending stump and Gamsol and blended out, and then I brought in a white colored pencil, and that just helps to blend out colors too if you're ever having problems. The white really helps you blend also. And then I came back in and blended out again with some Gamsol, and quite a bit actually, just to really bring that blue out and fade it off into white. And that really completed all the coloring on this card. There you can see that finished image. It did take a lot of time, but really worth it in my opinion. And now, because I just wanted to stress myself out even further, I decided to cut apart this panel that I had worked so hard on to color. So I put this into my paper trimmer, and I just cut out 3/4 of an inch from the center of this, and you'll see why in just a moment. So now I'm taking this top portion and I'm just going to bump that up against the top of an A2 top or side folding card base, excuse me. And then I'm going to take the bottom piece and I'm going to do the same thing but line this up with the bottom and make a little tick mark of where this ends. This is just going to let me know where I need to put this strip of taupe cardstock on my panel so that it peeks through from behind these two portions of the white panel that I had colored. So there you can see I have this taupe panel and it measures about 1.5 inches. And I just put some double-sided adhesive on the back of it, and I'm going to put that down and make sure that it covers up my little tick marks that I had made with my pencil. That way I know I have it positioned just right and that it's going to peek through from behind those two white panels. So I'm just placing that down, make sure it's nice and secure, and then I'm going to need to come back in with both of those panels again and make tick marks just so I can place my sentiment properly. So this is the easiest way I found to do this. I just again put that top portion on there, making sure it's in the right position, and then I just make a little mark with my pencil to where I know the panel ends. And here I'm doing it just with the bottom now, and then I can put this in my MISTI and line up my sentiment just exactly where I need it so I know it's going to show through and my white panels aren't going to cut off any of the wording. So I'm inking my sentiment stamp up with some Simon Says Stamp black dye ink. And the sentiment is from the Bless Your Nest stamp set that I used earlier, and it says from our house to yours. And this is just going to be another one that's in my stash that I can pull out, and it can be, a housewarming, it can be a happy birthday, it can be a miss you, anything you need it for, it's going to work for it. So that's why I chose this sentiment to use. On each of these panels, I also attached some fun foam with double-sided adhesive, and then I'm just peeling off the backing of that adhesive on the other side, and I will just line these up and place those down. I also did erase my pencil marks just in case, so they wouldn't show through either. And then I will do the exact same with that bottom panel there. Just peel off the backing and put that right in place. This is just a fun way to display your sentiment a different sort of way instead of the normal pop it on top of your card panel. So just a little bit something different to make it more fun. So once I have that placed down, I decided to add a little bit of bling to this card just to make it shine. So I'm taking some moonshine sequins from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm using my Quick Sticks tool and just some glue. I used Eileen's tacky glue this time just to place these down in a scattering on my card panel. And I just make sure that I have my sequins exactly where I want them, and then I bring in this tool and pick them up one by one and place them back in. That way I know I have them right where I want them, because I do have a little bit of trouble with the placement of my sequins. And that finished off the card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will leave you with this close-up and just a few pictures. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog, craftingwhilecaffeinated.wordpress.com. The link is in the description box below, and also that little I in the right hand corner will get you there too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy crafting!